The Bankrupt Bookseller. Religion, religious books, and Bibles. Today I went to church. It didn't do me any good. The preacher, for all that he said of any interest to me, might have been speaking of the habits of crustacea or marriage practices in Nyasaland or the etiology of rheumatism. The only inspiring feeling I had came to me from a woman who sat beside me in the same pew. When the singing began, she sang. How she sang. I know nothing of music, but I felt she felt all she sang. I remember yet the boldness, the fullness, the abounding vitality of the way she sang. Summer suns are glowing over land and sea. I saw these summer suns, although astronomy has only given us one. She made me believe without effort in several suns, multitudes of suns, all glowing, all so abundant was her conviction. As I came out, my friend, my enemy, my neighbor came out alongside me. He had enjoyed the service. Lovely day, he said. This weather makes them all want new hats. The preacher, what he said, and the draper, what he said, sent me back to the natural moodiness of mind to which I am prone. The church is no place for summer suns and ardent songsters, prosperous drapers, and gay millinery. The church, this church, was a parade of fashions and the exhibition of complacency. If God is pleased with his handiwork this morning, he had the right congregation. They were obviously pleased with God and pleased with themselves. The church in which I should have worshipped today would not have been a church for the contented, a church for the well-dressed and the respectable. The church I needed was the church of the man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, the church of him who cried, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Back in the shop, I pottered about my shelves. There is a great pleasure in pottering about my books on Sunday. My books are my own that day. Outside, I hear voices and people passing. I am alone in my library, as lonely as a monk in his cell. I can hear my voices as Joan of Arc did. Then my shop is shut. When my shop is shut. When it is open to the public, it is not my own somehow. It is theirs. The books are either theirs or the property of the people from whom I bought them, or, grim thought, the property of my financial creditors. I won't think of them on Sunday. There are not many religious books nowadays relatively. Time was when religious books were half a bookseller's stock in some towns, but we have changed all that. The world is too much with us today, but with us day by day in the daily news or daily mail for us to think every day of the life to come. I remember the excellent Sunday reading of my youth, old volumes of good words, a priggish title for most worthy volumes, The Quiver, most readable and almost too light for Sundays, Holy Living and Holy Dying, The Pilgrim's Progress, The Holy War, The Lives of the Conventors, many volumes of serious, particularly the sermons of Dr. Hugh Blair at 5 volumes. These were the books with which my pious relatives surrounded me on Sundays. They did me no ill. Indeed, I would not have been without their influences. My stock contains few of these works today, but I have always specialized in Bibles. It is stated that the Bible is still the world's best seller, and so it should be. Carnal and wicked though I am, bookseller and man of many worlds, this book is the book of books for me, and I dare say it for all my customers. I don't care what they think they want. I ought to tell them, this is the book for you, not Francis Hackett's Henry VIII. Sir, you should read the Book of Kings, not Elizabeth and her German garden, madam. You should read the Book of Ruth, not New Worlds for Old, sir. you should read the book of the Revelation of St. John, not Compton Mackenzie's 7 Ages of Woman, madam. You should read the story of another Mary in the Gospels, not Will Durant's story of philosophy, sir. You should read the book of Job. It is the commonest and commonplaces to write it, but it is true. The man who has read and reread the Bible, who has lived his life with his Bible, will be an educated man. He may not be a Christian, but he will know the mind of man and glimpse something of what may be the meaning anyway of life. The stock of Bibles should be varied. There is always the fond father and devoted mother who want to give one to the 15th birthday or to the occasion of his leaving home. How frequent that it is my experience, how frequent and perhaps how futile, but can one do better or do more? The comprehensive teacher's editions, Bagster, is a popular format, but I sell all sorts. The Modern Reader's Bible by Professor Moulton has taught me much personally, and I sell it sometimes to the discriminating. Dent's Temple Bible is very good, and the apocryphal volumes always evoke interest. I have a good second-hand set which I will sell complete for 1 shilling a volume. It is a bargain. Another bargain is my large family Bible, which came to me in a lot I had from a woman who had it bequeathed to her. The books, I believe, were the last item on the auction sale list. They followed the poor iron fender from the back room, the bamboo table, beaded cover and apotistra, and the embroidered footstool. The other books in the lot were Many Thoughts from Many Minds by Henry Southgate, Mrs. Hyman's poems, Wilson's Tales of the Borders, and a collection of old magazines and paper-covered fiction. They had to be turned into cash, and I was the buyer. The title page of this huge family Bible is worth transcribing in full, although I have already written of this book before. The Practical and Devotional Family Bible. The Holy Bible, containing Old and New Testaments according to the Authorized Version, with the marginal readings and original selected parallel references printed at length, and the commentaries of Henry and Scott condensed by the Reverend John McFarlane, LLD, Glasgow. Here follows the Royal Arms, Glasgow, printed by William Collins and Company and sold by William Collins, South Hanover Street, 1858 in Roman numerals. It is a real book, and I often wonder what its history has been and what lies before it. Into whose hands will it go? What eyes will read it, and what will be the consequences? Among my religious books, I have prayer books and hymnals. The English hymnary and the church hymnary are in good demand, and they are both well produced and well printed books. They are worth studying. I don't think that they are studied. They lie on seats and in shelves in churches, but folk ought to take them home. There is real poetry in many of them, and deep sentiment which one can love and admire, in all the same. In all of them. How graciously beautiful, for example, is that doxology by Samuel Miller, wearing, beginning now to him who loved us, give us. And how many and how confident is John Bunyan's hymn, he that is down needs fear no fall. My own favorite is one I have never heard sung, but which echoes all the struggling part of me sometimes feels. Dear Master, in whose life I see all that I would but fail to be, let thy clear light forever shine to shame and guide this life of mine, though that I dream and what I do in my weak days are always to help me oppressed by things undone, O thou whose deeds and dreams were one. The Eager poem is John Hunter. The Eager poem is by John Hunter, 1848 to 1917. Who was he? I do not know, but he is brother to me, oppressed as I am by things undone. He always has finished his course. Looking over the names of the hymn writers, I observe they nearly all live long. Godly men do, so an insurance man told me. Clergymen live longest in this vale of tears, and barmen and publicans, no more sinners than clergymen, are for some reason called earlier than the rest beyond. I pick out names at random. John Wesley, 1703 to 1791. Edward Denny, 1796 to 1889. Henry Hart Millman, 1791 to 1868. John Newton, 1725 to 1807. Anna Letitia Waring, 1820 to 1910. The Sweet Singers, my cynical, familiar, and irreverently and with questionable taste remarks, the Sweet Singers are not sought early for their choir invisible. We need them too much on earth, my younger and better off retorts. The most popular religious books since I began business are Bruce Barton's The Man Nobody Knows, The Book Nobody Knows, and What Can a Man Believe, have been big sellers, and they deserve their successes. There has been nothing like them since Charles M. Shelton's In His Steps or What Would Jesus Do. It is odd in a way that they both came from America. I have had orders for Colton Brock's books frequently, The Ultimate Belief and Studies of Christianity. They do not appeal to me so much as Jack's The Challenge of Life, which is a steady seller. Really, though, I am all for faith and not argument in religion. I would rather accept than be led by reason and logic to conviction. That is why I am pleased with my prayer books. I sell them by introduction. I tell men who obviously think too highly of their sense of humor to get down and pray on their knees. I tell them to buy prayer books. My favorites are William Law's Serious Call to the Devout and Holy Life. Not exactly a prayer book, but I call it one. Home Prayers by Dr. Martineau, The Imitation of Christ, The Day, a collection of simple prayers published by St. Martin's Review, The Little Purple, a plain man's prayer book containing Dr. Johnson's, and one published by Blackwood called Carrie Eelson. These prayer books will make men better men and me a better bookseller for selling them. Perhaps the best work I may do in all my life is to sell Kyrie Eisens to some soul who needs it, casting bread upon the waters in a rash speculation compared with the selling of books. I am a sower. My field is the hearts of men. My seed is these books. One must never be unjust to books. I would be unjust to omit Dr. James Moffat's A New Translation of the Bible. I omitted it from what I have written because it is away from my shelves. I have been reading it and I am untidy. It was in my back room on what passes for my dressing table, covered untidily with a handkerchief, not unclean, and a bohemian necktie, which I sometimes affect when my shirts are rather soiled. This new Bible is most absorbing. It is like going to see the same play with different actors. It tests one's old knowledge and makes one critical. It helps me to understand. I love the laconic narrative nowhere better than it in that last dialogue between Jesus and Peter in John's Gospel. Peter said to Jesus, "And what about him, Lord?" Jesus replied, "What does that matter to you? Follow me yourself." But it is all good narrative as well as philosophy. What could be better than this? So I praise pleasure. The best thing for man is to eat and drink and enjoy himself, and to keep this up as he toils right through the life God gave him in this world. To keep this up, one must be a Doctor of Divinity, Doctor of Literature, an MA, Oxford, and to write that, but but then I am sure it is just as the speaker, David's son, king in Jerusalem, spoke. In fact, it is not just like what David, Prince of Wales and Duke of Rothesay, would say today. Among additional holy books, I must mention Great Souls at Prayer, Alanson. My copy is the 71st thousandth, and the Mirror of Perfection in Dense Temple Classics. To both I owe debts, and if I cannot repay my debts, I can, decent tradesman that I am, I can acknowledge them.